Hi, I am Kristine McGlinchey-Yap. Thank you so much for joining me for the last conversation in the Moments of Clarity conversation series. Today, I am with Natalie Calzadilla, and she is a beautiful woman, new mom with a 3-week-old baby. She's a shaman,
Oh,
a graphic designer. She helps lead soulpreneurs to find their branding and their creativity. She's an artist. Oh my gosh, she's just such an amazing, well-rounded, doing all the things. She's a healer. So I'll let her speak more to all the hats that she gets to wear. And thank you so much, Natalie, for making the time. The baby's napping, so this is precious moments. All of us moms can relate. When the baby's napping, that is like sacred mom time.
yes, thank you, Christine. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this wonderful conversation series.
Thank you. So Natalie and I met through Las Comadres, again, the beautiful community of women. I've met a lot of the women on the series through Las Comadres, so it just tells you how important community is, and really finding people that align with your path and like your vibration. And I remember sitting down with Natalie, we're at Barnes and Noble a year ago, and I was telling her like the vision I had for the community, oh mamas, and also for like this loose idea of a book. I was like, yeah, I have this like book in mind. So I really wanted to work with her on it. At the time, she was transitioning herself into, you wanted to go full time into entrepreneurship, and you were kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of scared. So a lot of what we go through, like having a corporate, safe, stable, comfortable job that we are, we're complacent in, and making the jump into being an entrepreneur. At the time, we were talking about like my pregnancy and my motherhood journey, and like for you, it wasn't on the immediate horizon, but then who knew? 5 months later, I think it was, you're like, guess what? I'm pregnant. So it's just funny how like the universe lines up things for us and like will accelerate our growth, because that too was able to push Natalie forward and say like, okay, now I really have to get serious about my entrepreneur journey, and to be in that space, kind of like the same thing that I did, like being scared to leave that corporate job, and then finally being presented with motherhood, and then saying like, okay, now is time for me to like branch out on my own. So it was really beautiful to watch that. So at the time, Natalie didn't accept my proposal to collaborate with me on the book because she just had so many things going on. And I was like, okay. But deep in my heart, I knew, I was like, I'm waiting. Like this book is waiting for Natalie to like want to take it too. Like I just felt like it was such like a natural like synergy. So, keeping in touch throughout the months while Natalie was pregnant and building her business, which she'll tell you guys all about, um, it came back up again, and I was telling her about my book, and she was like, okay, like actually I think I am, like I'm ready now to be able to take on this project. And um, she just was flawless. Like she took my vision and she ran with it, made it her own, and it was perfect. Like the first try, like she was like, I'm kind of nervous, like I don't know like what direction you want to go into, and I was just like, just feel it out, like whatever comes to you, that's perfect. And she really, like, I saw the book and I was in tears because it was just everything that I could have never even like dreamed of. So Natalie is just so talented in that aspect. And yeah, we're like super proud of the creation that's going to come through on the 21st. And we're really excited to share it with you guys. Later in this segment, I will preview the book to all of you, so you can enjoy the wonderful creation that is to come. Natalie.
So, yes, that book, talk about a blessing with motherhood and everything that it brought because it opened up the space for me able to take on your project. So I had been working and I'm still officially employed still by my day job. And at the time that you had approached me for the idea with the book to design the cover and format the interior, I was not ready to take on that size of a project because I was working full time and my job is demanding. It's draining mentally. And so I was like, I can't take on that size of a design project. And what I would do is, just because I didn't want to have the pressure of taking on external clients, I would just do my own projects as far as publishing. So I had recently published a planner. The joke is on me, obviously, with the universe and the pandemic, but I published an undated planner that I designed in February of this year, right before the pandemic. So you can plan all your pandemic activities, apparently. And so I was doing things like that. I published my planner. I had also published 2 coloring books previously that I illustrated and also self-published on Amazon. And then I would take on healing clients and coaching clients here and there. Also, trying to manage, not even as a mom, or I wasn't a mom yet, but just trying to manage a day job and trying to pivot into entrepreneurship. And I have been doing it over the years, but still didn't have the bandwidth to really take that giant leap forward. And then thankfully, with the whole transition of getting pregnant and moving in with my boyfriend and getting ready for Amara's arrival, I reached a point right before I had the baby. I think I was literally in month 8 where I was like, I'm ready, Kristine. If you still are looking for this, I feel just in alignment with your project now. If you haven't found any other designer, and you're like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for you. And I was just like, really? Wow, thank you. That's amazing. And let's do this. And we took on your project, and I was, like you said, I was nervous because it was my first shot. You just kind of gave me your ideas of what you liked and the vibe that you kind of had, but you were also very clear as far as the vibe that you want. Like, you did your homework, which made my life easy. and then yeah, and then we gave birth to your book, and I was super glad that you're happy with it, and that it brought you to tears, because then that brought me to tears, and then now we're all crying. But what a beautiful project to be a part of as I transitioned into motherhood, and to do this Momtras book was just the synchronicity of that was beautiful. And I haven't, even though I designed the cover and formatted the whole interior file, I purposefully didn't read the book. I wanted to have just kind of the enjoyment of getting and ordering the book and getting the book in my hands and just reading it, because I still love like paper books. Even though I have my Kindle, but I just love like the yumminess of a fresh new book. And I was waiting for that, but now that it's that, plus I'm officially a mother, I can't wait to read the book now, because it means so much more that we did the passion project together, and that now I have all of your wisdom to help me through this very difficult journey. And yeah, it's just been great. But that's kind of been the design side of my entrepreneurship journey. The other sides that I've done has been just the healing. As a shamanic practitioner, I'll see clients for healing, soul level healing, to help remove blocks and kind of align you more with what your soul's calling is. And then I always incorporate the spiritual coaching into whatever I'm doing, whether it's business or just life coaching or anything in between, even helping develop your intuitive gifts. All of that, my coaching kind of touches all of those things. But specifically now, as I am being more strategic about pivoting from the day job to entrepreneurship, because I have a newborn and I've been blessed with the opportunity of 6 months of maternity leave, I really want to finally build my business to where I can transition when it's appropriate. I have already done in the past where I've jumped a little too soon. And my advice to people that want to transition is, don't jump unless you're strategic. And people have different advice. Some people say, take the leap, jump, go, and the universe will catch you. I am a type A personality. No, the universe, I can't handle that leap and the universe catching me, because I leaped and then the universe let me fall. So that was not cute. So my advice is to you can build a business while having a daytime job. It just requires a lot of self-compassion and self-care and strategic thinking and planning, and really just being very purposeful and intentional with your time
Mhm.
and where you're putting all your focus on. So with that being said, now I'm focusing more on spiritual business coaching, where I want to help other soulpreneurs who are in the wellness industry, holistic healing, mystics, shamans, astrologers, anything that's in the woo-woopreneur realm. I want to help those entrepreneurs transition and start their businesses, because a lot of us, I've noticed that we're really excited about starting our businesses, but a lot of the techie stuff is really intimidating, from the design aspect of branding all the way to just the actual technical know-how of how to set up your Instagram and your Facebook and your website, and how to accept payment and how to schedule a Zoom call and all of these things. So really, I want to help with the operations aspect of helping entrepreneurs or soulpreneurs specifically get up and running, like the first baby steps from like idea to initial clients.
Mhm.
um that's where my heart is speaking to me now.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I've actually had the beautiful opportunity to experience one of Natalie's like healing sessions. And oh my gosh, like she is so powerful. And what a beautiful experience. Like from one day to the next, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally felt a shift in my consciousness. I just felt more confident to be able to do what it is, because it was very, very much in the beginning stages of like, I was kind of in this space. I was like, Natalie, I don't know. I'm in this place of like the imposter syndrome and like, can I really do this? But like, can I really, really do this? And, experiencing one of her healing sessions just really like opened that gateway for me to fully embrace who I was becoming, and allowing me to like step forward. It really did give me like that powerful shift, and it was really beautiful. So, like Natalie said, a lot of like spiritual entrepreneurs, like we have these huge visions, but we don't know like what containers to place them in. We don't know, how do I start? Like, what are all the systems? So it's a really important like process. And I think what I've learned throughout the series is, and for me personally, into my entrepreneurial journey, like raising a newborn, is that you don't have to do it alone, and you're not supposed to. Like, really, it's proof, and if it's evident, like wherever you can ask for help and support, do that. Like, just release control, like take control, because I'm a very capable person. I'm a very like, oh, I need to control everything, like I need to do it, like, oh no, I have a hard time delegating tasks, from like, and becoming like a PR manager and having to work with a team. Like, I slowly started to release that control, but even more so in my motherhood journey. And and I were just chatting about this prior to getting on this call, but in the ways that we need to surrender and release control and kind of allow ourselves to fall into that place of having the permission to ask for help, and stop pushing ourselves and our bodies so hard, to be able to relax and say like, okay, like this is resistance, right? The resistance, like I'm getting resistance from this area, like how can I ask the universe for help, or how can I make it easier on myself? Because we make it hard for ourselves, because we're like, Natalie just shared her very, beautiful and profound struggle with having to breastfeed. And she's 3 weeks in, and just saying, like she was trying so hard. She was trying so hard. And this is what she wanted. She wanted to breastfeed, but she just had to come to realization like, okay, like, is this really in my best interest? Because I'm suffering mentally. My body is not handling it. How can I ask for help and step away from this, and, release myself of that control and the need to make it look a certain way. So I think that we have such a strong vision for our lives, no matter what area it's in, and we're solely focused on, I have to make it look this way. Sometimes we kind of like stop the universe from saying, well, this is not really in your best interest. you know and so for Natalie to be able to say, okay, like I have to stop breastfeeding, I know I wanted it to look like this, but this is not how my journey unfolds, this is not how it happens. And she tried, and that's the best you can do. Like, you tried, hang in there, you know, you have the strength and the courage and the resilience to start something, and you know, but sometimes the universe has other things in mind, and maybe, you know, her stopping breastfeeding is just the permission and what she needs to be able to focus on other areas, because breastfeeding is very time consuming. Like, it really is. It's like it's a whole thing in itself, and it's a beautiful, wonderful, you know, thing for moms to have, but it's really not for everyone. You know, the experience is not for everyone. So, you know, as long as your child is safe and fed, and, you know, formula is beautiful, it's just a beautiful like blessing to be able to provide your child with formula, you know, and the growing things and nurture. I mean, at the end of the day, love, right, is the thing that we need the most. Put aside all of like material needs and all that, but as long as it comes from a place from love, that's what we all need. So how can we be kinder to ourselves? How can we see that things that show up as resistance for us are sometimes the things that we need to uncover and just like embrace the most, like seeing what we're resistant to in all areas of our lives. And as Natalie said, it's a beautiful experience, kind of like seeing where Natalie was like a year ago, pre baby, to like embracing and just allowing things to happen, like as a mother now.
Yes, the resistance has been, it's so important to be aware of when you see the resistance like playing out. And for me, what really has evolved in this time of transition into motherhood, and also while simultaneously building a business, is transitioning into letting go. You talked about letting go, and for me, I'm a Virgo is my sun sign, and I'm a perfectionist and a control freak, recovering control freak, and I'm very high strung. My normal nature is very high strung and a lot of anxiety. I mean, anxiety disorder is my history, but it's in my family's like genes. Both sides of my parents, everyone's type A personality, the majority, like 80 to 90% of everyone's type A personality of all of the adults. And they're high strung and really high anxiety, like nervous, like anxiety disorders. And it's been really hard to kind of step in out of that and go on my healing journey and transition into unpacking all of that and learning to navigate life very organically and letting go, and the famous word of like trusting the universe that everything will be fine and all of that stuff. And it's been such a journey to just like allow and let go. And now with having a child, that's like the best way to just like blow up your perfect like planned scheduled life. And even in this journey of preparing for today's interview with together, my normal personality is, hey, what time is a call? What are going to be the bullet points? I need to prepare. Then you give me the bullet points, and then I will go and take notes about like what are the things I want to touch on. And I was so deliberate in saying, like, you know what? We don't have time for that. We're still recovering from birth and this whole experience. We're just going to let it flow and trust that everything will work out fine. And I didn't text you, and we jumped on, we talked for like 3 minutes, and then we hit record. And that's okay. And everything's going so far so good. And that's really the new territory that I'm in now, is learning to operate within that reality, because that's what's best for my self-care as a new mom, and also as a person who's recovering from anxiety and is trying to step into living life more grounded and more connected to spirit, and also very worldly in the sense of creating a business and wanting to create abundance for myself and my family. And so that's been like a really big thing right now. And there's something, the other thing I wanted to say, it slipped my mind. I have baby brain,
That's okay. Was it
but
about
it'll
reflection?
come back to me. It'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to comment, and you hit it like spot on about like perfection, the need to like show up perfect. And oh my gosh, how much did I struggle with that? And like even in the series, like I was just telling Natalie, like creating it has been such a joy for me, but then actually hitting publish on Tuesday when it launched, I was like, like feeling so self-conscious about it, and just like, oh my gosh, like what did I just do? Like, is anyone even gonna watch it? Like, it's funny because we go into these seasons of like confidence, like trust, but then we retreat back into those old limiting beliefs. But it is a blessing to be able to catch yourself when you're doing it, and to be able to reframe your perspective like when you feel that doubt or the fear creeping in. And like often, like the need for perfection is just a way for us to sabotage ourselves into actually not taking action at all. It's like, oh well, I'm just gonna wait until like I have my website set up perfect before I start taking clients. And then
Mm.
well, actually I can't post on Instagram because I don't have a beautiful picture to do, or like it's like these ways that we self-sabotage ourselves into saying like I need to show up perfectly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, now you just reminded me. So exactly that, like having the perfectionism is a way of self-sabotaging, and it's that whole paralysis by analysis, and we can come up with so many good excuses to like not launch and not take that call or not make send that email or not, hit publish on the book because we're scared, and imposter syndrome is going to always be a thing. Imposter syndrome never goes away. Like the most successful people still have imposter syndrome, and they're at the top of in the height of their game, and it's still going to always be a thing, and it's okay. You just got to kind of take it with you and acknowledge it and just know that it's just a thing. But the other part of that is messy starts. So I'm in this business coaching program, and my business coach, she embraces messy starts, and she's even working, I think, on her next book that's about messy starts. And for me, messy is not like in my vocabulary.
No,
So
Natalie's like,
like
oh, the margins are like not aligned, dead center, so you should fix that. And then meanwhile, I'm like, girl, you're
yeah.
gonna have a baby. Like, don't worry about like my margin.
I'm like I'm like, no, 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 but we gotta move this box like 2 millimeters to the right because of the crease, and it's not. so, so there's a time and place for that level of perfectionism. But it's been definitely a journey, is to embrace. That's been my recent journey, to just embrace the messy starts and to just like throw it out there, and what lands lands. And even if it doesn't look perfect and it's not perfectly branded, or your operations are still kind of like all over the place and pieced together, it's okay. The importance is that people see you, they feel your energy, they connect with you. It doesn't matter if all of those things are not in place, but just by showing up and allowing people, like people want you, like they want to connect with the person. And that's more important than having all of your branding and operations and Facebook and Instagram with looking beautiful and perfect and all that stuff. People want that humanness and that rawness, and just
Yeah.
leap, like in that sense, leap. Like it's okay to leap, just
Yes.
don't get crazy, but but do the messy start,
Yeah.
and you'll be really surprised. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that when that fear creeps up, like you said, hitting publish on Tuesday for the series, was it Tuesday or Monday?
Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday, okay. um the importance of community. I feel like in those moments where we're really terrified because we're about to launch something, a program, a book, or a healing service or anything, and we're like right there and we're about to hit launch, or we already did, and we feel so vulnerable. We're like, oh my God, I feel like naked right now, and everybody's looking, and what have I done? And does this matter? And for me, in those moments, community has been what has held me in
Yeah.
a container and kind of helped me walk through that very uncomfortable few moments, because it doesn't last, because it's funny. You'll like launch, you're terrified, you feel like, you know, vulnerable and naked, and then all of a sudden within like 30 minutes you see like all the amazing results, and then you're like, oh, I was just being silly, like everything is fine, okay, this is gonna work. But and in community, it can just be having a coach or a mentor, because those have been very pivotal in those moments where I'm like, oh my God, and they just lovingly go, it's okay, like I'll catch you, like it's gonna be fine. You just hit publish and everything's gonna be good. And having that loving container from a coach or a mentor or a healer, or a community, a Facebook community or a coaching program or anything like that, that it's a community, or even like you said, las comadres, of having a community of like-minded individuals to hold you through those really vulnerable moments and to continue encouraging you to move forward every day.
Oh, definitely, that is so important. And I didn't really understand that. And, you know, I spoke about that a few times during the series, but I didn't really lean into community. Um, I didn't feel like the need to lean into community as much as I do now. And I didn't really value the importance of it until like now. And it's just like, even through motherhood, like Natalie and I were just having a conversation and we both were like, yeah, nobody tells you like how hard breastfeeding is. Like no one tells you like how mentally and emotionally draining it is. Like, you know, there is a serious like lack of maternal education, and hopefully Natalie and I can change that. Like let's see what we can do, because and that's the thing, like, so we need to seek out resources, right? We need to seek help. We're not in this world alone, and a lot of times it does feel that way. Even like I can only imagine like what you and your family are going through right now with a newborn, in isolation, not being able to have people come over and do all the things and like the support that you need like face to face, because it can be very isolating and it's lonely, and it's just you and the baby on your chest, like sitting on the couch, and which is beautiful in the moment, but then you're kind of like yearning for conversation and interaction. And it does, there were times during my pregnancy, and we weren't even in quarantine when the baby was here, I felt so alone. Like I felt like misunderstood, or you know, kind of like neglected almost too by community, because you know everyone is talking about the baby. Well, how's the baby doing? How's the baby? And like all of my emphasis was like, oh, how's the baby? How's the baby? But not putting that love and that care into myself and saying, well, like, how am I doing? Because I too struggled. I struggled with postpartum anxiety, which we don't talk about enough, because and postpartum depression appeared for me in a way that I didn't expect it to, in terms of like really that loneliness and that grief and loss of my prior life. I was just shedding this old life, and it was just really heavy on me. Like I thought the depression was, you know, people talk about postpartum depression and they're like, oh, well, you're not going to want to be around the baby. But for me, the postpartum depression had nothing to do with the baby. It very much had all to do with myself. I was just looking at this person I didn't recognize anymore. And, you know, knowing that my life was totally separate from what it had been before. It was just this weird feeling of separation and loss and like grief. It very much felt like mourning, um, because I was shedding like this older version of me that I no longer recognized, to step into this new woman, this new mother, this new spiritual being. Um, and we need to talk about that more, I feel like, because a lot of people go through it. And even with the postpartum anxiety, like I was just nervous about everything. And I'm not usually like a nervous kind of person, but it was like everything just made me nervous and anxious. And like the thought of like stepping outside of the house with the baby, I was like scared and frightened and very timid. And I just felt in the body, the anxiety in the body, like even I'm very anxious. Like I was just like, oh my God, am I gonna do this wrong? Like, am I gonna like accidentally like choke her by accident or something? Like it's just the anxiety of everything, like doing everything wrong, and like not doing like things right, or like hurting by accident, or like hurting myself by accident. Like I don't know. I was just like so nervous about everything, and it was just giving me so much anxiety. And I was telling Natalie too, I was like, I didn't feel comfortable, like where I was like, okay, like in flow, until the baby was like 4 months old, which probably scared the shit out of her. Because like, but for me, like I really didn't sink into comfort until the baby was 4 months old. And then I was like, all right, I think this is gonna be okay. Like I think I finally have like a flow and I think I'm understanding her and I'm understanding myself. Because very much in that time, like between and I started working like 2 weeks postpartum. Like I was like, I had a client like 2 weeks postpartum and I just jumped right in to it. And so for me, it was very much a delicate balance of like figuring out how to raise my baby, how to raise my company. And a lot of what Natalie said was compassion, self care, permission, just like all of the ways, just undoing everything that you used to know about working and like not having to work overexert yourself, working when the baby is napping, finding time for yourself. It's a really interesting and delicate balance. And even the, for me, the baby's 14 months, you're like 14 months now, and it's still kind of like, because the baby's always constantly growing, and you have to adjust and pivot and say, what is my routine now? Like, so I love how Natalie said she kind of had to release that control and the need of things to like look a certain way with the bullet points and the calendar invites, because when we give ourselves that permission and we say, okay, like it doesn't have to look a certain way, this is how it works for me, this is how it looks to me, that's when we can really step into our power, our flow, and just allow. It's really the control piece though that gets us, when we need to control.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned the postpartum anxiety. I did not know that that was a thing. You hear postpartum depression, and my midwife, when she came to see me and my checkups, my postpartum checkups, she was like, "You're not okay." And it was, I think I was 1 week in or 2 weeks in. So the baby's 4 weeks tomorrow. And yeah, like 1 or 2 weeks in, she was like, "This is more." I asked her, like, "I feel like really bad.
Mhm.
And is this the hormones? Because this is way beyond what I expected when you say, like, oh, you're hormonal and you're going to be emotional." It was a whole other level of intensity. And she said, "No, you're experiencing postpartum anxiety and not postpartum depression. There's also postpartum OCD and there's also postpartum psychosis." And she's like,
Wow.
"Well, yeah, I had no idea that it was like
What,
so
yeah.
multifaceted."
Yeah.
And no, and again, like you said, nobody talks about these things. You hear postpartum depression, but I didn't know that postpartum anxiety within itself. And it makes sense that I went to the postpartum anxiety side
Yeah.
because I tend to suffer from anxiety. But what was really hard for me to process was because I had felt like I don't think I'll ever conquer anxiety 100% because I feel some of that is genetics. That could also be a story I'm telling myself, and hopefully I could put
Mhm.
that story aside and finally conquered for forever. But I had felt like I had reached the point with my anxiety that with my spiritual practice and all of my healing journey, that people perceive me as a really calm, put together person,
Right.
on most days. And I'm still a fiery, hot-headed Cuban. But um but then to see that I went through the birth, and then on the flip side, I unraveled 2 weeks ago in severe anxiety. And how you said all of those thoughts that you're just terrified about leaving the house, and how am I going to handle this? And is she going to fall? And this and the SIDS and the blah, blah, blah,
Mm.
and on. And the catastrophic thinking
Yeah.
is really intense.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, community has helped me because I'm always very adamant about sharing what I'm going through on Instagram because I hate it when people suffer in silence
Mm. Mm.
and they don't talk about what they're really going through because they're ashamed
Yeah.
about what their journey is,
Mm.
and or they think nobody wants to hear it. Um, And that's not true. And so if I can share what my difficult journey is and that helps one person, then that was worth it, because I just want people to know, like, you're not alone. We all go through this.
Yeah.
And my post earlier this week where I talked about my breastfeeding journey, and I wanted to talk in that post to the moms that are saying, I don't want to breastfeed because I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I was mind blown to find out that within the motherhood community, there are women and men shaming women for not breastfeeding. And I
Mm.
read stories of people like in the supermarket buying formula, and that here comes another person and shames them about buying formula because breast is best. No, like that's not okay. And so when I saw those things and I read those articles, I was like, I want to make sure that I make it a point to speak to those moms that just don't feel like breastfeeding, or they're done with it, or they can't for whatever reason, and it's okay.
Mm.
Um, and thankfully, I have a wonderful community of friends who are supportive of my decisions and who are adamant, like pro breastfeeding, and um, but who respect my decision. And they're like, whatever you need for your mental health. If your mental health, if it's going to give you more bandwidth to show up as a mom
Definitely.
by no longer pumping and no longer breastfeeding, then that's what's right for you, and that's okay. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
We have to stop judging. We really do. We have to stop judging, and we have to stop shaming one another for our decisions as parents, and especially right now is such a pivotal time, like where people are thinking like, do I homeschool? Do I send my kid to school? And there's so many decisions right now that people are making, and you have to know what's best for you and your family at the end of the day. And there is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong decision. As long as you're safe, your family are safe. Again, love holds us together. As long as every decision and every action that you make is in the name of love and compassion for your family, then it's perfect. It's perfect. So
Absolutely. And it's been difficult with the pandemic. And, you said that the loneliness of the journey of after, having a child, which is normal. That's the biggest thing, is like the isolation after having a baby is what you commonly hear about postpartum being like really difficult. But the dimension of having a child during the pandemic and not having any help present during those initial like 2 weeks, that was devastating. And I think a really big cause about why I was in a bad place was because I had no help. It was just like, it's very surreal to like think, and I'm still in the thick of it, in the sense that I'm a month in, and my I can't have anybody over really. Like my mom just met the baby a week ago.
mhm,
Um and it's been difficult, especially if you're on a spiritual journey and there's a lot of empaths and highly sensitive people, because you're also feeling into like the collective suffering that's going on with everyone dealing with the quarantine
mm,
and what's happening in the United States and our government and this and the elections, and just like the collective energy is really, really, really intense right now. So, the spiritual hygiene part of it has been challenging for
mm,
me because I have a newborn.
mhm,
So I've just been really happy that I've been able to journal 3 times this week with the newborn.
wow, beautiful.
Um, so it's just important to do the self-care as a mom. You
Yeah.
have to like figure it out, and for me, journaling is one of those things that
Mhm,
is very healing for me. And so I've been more adamant about doing that. And today I had her in my arms and I was journaling with the other hand, and I'm just like, I have to do this for me. And it
mm,
makes a world of difference. But when you're circling back to being an entrepreneur and as a mom, um, and as an empath and highly sensitive person, I tend to, oh, introvert. That was the other magic word. So it's introverted, empath, and highly sensitive person. We tend to isolate. We are not good at community. Like we want it like in a very like romanticized way,
yeah.
but to actually go out and interact is really overwhelming. It overloads our senses, and even participating in Facebook groups or reaching out to people. So I tend to do well with either really small communities or one-on-one coaches, like one-on-one relationships, either with a business coach, life coach, spiritual coach, counselor, healer, like those types of relationships are more nourishing for me than a really big community.
Mm.
Um, and then smaller knit Facebook communities or things like that that you can reach into um, are what works for me. So if anybody also identifies as an introvert, who's an empath, who's highly sensitive,
Yeah.
um, those are my suggestions for community, to kind of have a lot more of the one-on-one relationships with people that are very nourishing to your soul,
Yeah.
and to help you kind of stay on track and recalibrate.
I'm remembering when I first met you at the Las Comadres, it was like an introduction series. And I just remember you being in like a corner, like you were like doodling or something. And I just came up to you and I was like, hi, I'd love
Yes.
to hear more about you.
And thank you for that. So, dear extroverts, please come say hi to us introverts. We want to connect. We're just like sitting in our safe bubbles.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was a really big event for me, because there must have been like 50, 60 women or something in that one event.
Yeah.
And we're packed in a tight room, and then they're like, all right, time to network. And I'm like, oh God. My favorite. I think I literally talked to maybe 3 people. But here's what I love though, is that the universe still works in your favor, because only speaking to like 3 people, I still made like an incredible connection with you. Look at where we are a year later.
Mhm.
And a couple relationships online and things like that. And so magic still happens for introverts who don't go out and really, 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 socialize. It just happens, at a very different way and pace. And it works. It still works.
Yeah, but like you said, it's putting yourself out there in safe, comfortable spaces that feel good to you. So doing so in a way that aligns with yourself, like having that self-awareness of knowing, okay, I don't do well in big groups, so let me find a really niche community that I can feel safe in, participating in a way that feels authentic and aligns with me. Finding someone who I connect with, a healer or a mentor, and working one-on-one with them. So there are ways that we could still be in community in ways that nourish and align with our highest and greatest goods. And just like, if someone interests you, like that day I was like, no, I know I had like my radar on, like when these certain women spoke, I was like, yes, my soul is calling to that one. My soul is calling to this is someone I have to be intentional about meeting. And and even if it doesn't, like just reaching out to someone online, like following Natalie on Instagram, seeing her journey, reaching out and messaging her like, hey, thank you so much for sharing. Like, when we come out of our comfort zones a little bit, we allow the universe to expand us and to provide meaningful connections in our lives that will like really nourish us. And so being an entrepreneur, being a new mom, you don't have to be alone. There are people who want to support and guide you, because we've been through it. Natalie and I have been through it. Natalie is going through it, and she's going to learn so much more about being an entrepreneur and a mother as her journey continues, and which is beautiful, because then she's going to be able to support other women who like are called to work with her. So it's just a really like beautiful way of like just coming back to ourselves, and as women entrepreneurs and as mothers, and knowing that it is possible. Because also some people say like, I'm pregnant, like I can't start something now, like how am I going to start a new business now, like I'm going to have a baby. And it's 100% like doable. Natalie and I have done it. We are doing it. And you can too. You just have to be very self-aware, know your limits, know your boundaries, know how far you can push, how you can ask for help and support, but it's absolutely doable. So when we like limit ourselves in that way and we tell the universe, I can't do it because I'm having a baby, or, oh, I have a newborn, I can't start something, you can. There's someone who wants to help you reach your purpose. And having a baby, being a mom, does not take that away from you. It doesn't take away your dreams and your goals and your hopes. It just enhances them.
That was a big healing point, and my healing journey was the fear that if I had, and I know you talked about this actually in your interview, the fear that I had that if I had a family, then that was the end of me and my goals and my dreams. And when you talked about the postpartum being related to, mourning who you used to be, That's definitely not what I'm going through, because I've been trying to, I unpacked the fear a while back, but there's still that feeling of like, holy cow, this is a whole other paradigm right now. And it's not that I'm mourning my old life, but I am turning 40 this year. And I've been independent for a long time. So it is more common for women to mourn that independence the older they have a child. But it's absolutely possible to build a paradigm and your own, to build an empire and still be a mom. And one of my business coaches, she says she has 3 kids, and every time she has a child, her business explodes,
Wow.
which was really inspiring. She's like, and she's on target for about $7 million this year.
Beautiful.
And
Wow.
so she's killing it. And every time, and when I told her, I don't know if I'm going to join your program because I'm pregnant and I'm going to have the baby smack in the middle of this coaching program, she's like, every time I've had a kid, my business has exploded. Don't let that stop you.
Wow.
Um, and so it's everything, anything is possible. You gotta write the story that you want to write.
Oh, that's beautiful. Speaking of stories, I do believe it's time, my friends.
Yay! Drum
So,
roll.
all right, let us unveil our baby that we birthed together. So this is an exclusive sneak peek at the book Momtras, which is coming out tomorrow on Amazon. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da.
Yay! Momtras!
Yeah.
Momtras for mindful moms.
Yes, so this is Natalie's beautiful vision, and it is just so beautiful, and we are so excited. So if you open up, you get a mantra, you get a little blurb. Yeah, so we're super
I
proud
love
of our
it.
little baby. Yay! So
Is
we
the
did
book published on Amazon yet?
it is going to be available tomorrow,
Okay.
August 21st. Well, at the time that this interview airs, will be the 20th.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Right. The 21st.
live
Yay!
on August 21st.
How exciting. I can't wait.
Yes, and this book is just infused with so much love and healing, and really just a gift to moms and ourselves, and all the ways in which we need to give and receive love back to ourselves. And so it's just been
Yes.
a beautiful journey, and I'm so grateful to be able to have shared it with everyone, and for Natalie's beautiful talent to be adorned all over this book. It was just, the universe, it was all in its time. So thank you so
Oops.
much. Okay.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy that I was a part of your beautiful journey and this passion project to get all of your spiritual insights and wisdom for all the mommies. That now means more to me than ever. And
Yes.
I need to read the book ASAP.
So
I'm so excited. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of that.
yes. Thank you all for watching and for being with us. I will provide links to all of Natalie's wonderful websites, talents. Again, on Amazon, she also has 2 coloring books and her planner. We still very much need to be planning and manifesting. So the planner is a
Yeah.
beautiful reminder for us to continue to do that and keep ourselves held accountable. And thank you for being with us. We will talk to
Thank
you next
you.
time.